Happy Tuesday. It's Tuesday, October 26, 2021. Welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom, brought to you by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Hope you guys had a good week. Last week, I gave you a list of 20 authors who have appeared on TWT. What an impressive list it is. I thought it was a complete list, but as it turns out, I forgot one. I forgot Joyce Gilly Gossom's excellent books on leadership. Why are they following me? And what am I supposed to say? Check them out. They're great for young and for more seasoned leaders. Sometimes things have a way of working themselves out. And maybe it was more appropriate that I mentioned Joyce's books today because there is a direct line to today's G-List guest. Our G-List guest today is Crystal Harrell. Crystal is CEO of Crystal Clear Innovation. Crystal is currently a certified academic success coach, and she has helped dozens of students navigate their way through higher education from all backgrounds. More impressive, and why I am smiling in introducing her, is I met Crystal several years ago when she was a student at Auburn and running on the track team. And I was working with the student athletes on life choices and issues that had more to do with their success off their respective fields and tracks and courts, etc. This class dealt with success on the big stage, the stage of life. I met Crystal when she asked if she could have a private conference, as the students were encouraged to do when they had something they wanted to talk about in private. Crystal did. Now, I'm a decent listener, but I was in over my head, and I referred Crystal to someone I thought would be a better listener and would become a mentor and a friend. And that was Joyce, the author of Why Are They Following Me? And What Am I Supposed to Say? They have been friends, mentor, mentee, and I am an uncle once again. Crystal has an incredible story, and I look forward to talking with her about her book, Crystal Clear. The G-List is sponsored by Mainstream Financial Group. Mainstream Financial brings financial vision and clarity to your retirement plans. Talk to the folks at Mainstream Financial and don't let your money run out before you do. On last week's show, G-List guest Larry Thom, entrepreneur, author, artist, commented on the show about Mainstream Financial's tagline, "Don't let your money run out before you do." Larry, an entrepreneur, a businessman, commented on the financial wisdom in that statement. He considered it generational and how generational wealth is attained and maintained. And I agree. So this edition of Tuesdays with Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Let's get a word in for Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly Gossom, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
It's the solution that fits your needs. A side note, the Best Girl Consulting Firm was started in 1987 as Thom Gossom Communications. It was merged with Witt Management Consulting in 1997 as JTG Consulting, then reborn as Best Girl in 2004. 34 years and running and enjoying the ride. So let's get to our roundtable regulars and introduce Barbara Wallace-Edwards and Michael Walker. Barbara Wallace-Edwards is a Mobile, Alabama native. She's currently living in Birmingham, Alabama. And Barbara, how are you this morning?
Good morning, Thom. I'm doing well on this chilly October morning. How are you today?
It is chilly, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Chilly,
And
chilly down here.
I'm excited about that. I love the fall weather, so it's great. I'm loving it.
Fall has always been my favorite time of the year.
Yes.
It's special, and you You can breathe easier for some reason.
Absolutely, I can.
I don't
I
know.
suffer from allergies, and it
I
is
do
tough,
too.
especially in the spring. So yeah, this is a great time of year.
I do
love it.
too, and Joyce does as well. So, and I've
Yes.
been allergies all my life,
Yes. Mine actually mine didn't start until I moved to Birmingham. I
really
had experienced problems with allergies at any time before that. So but since that time, it doesn't matter where I am. I always have to deal with that
mine
issue.
started as a child, and
Wow.
especially in my teen years, and
Right.
man, I'd have to go get an allergy shot every Thursday. And
Bless you.
finally, I just quit. I said, I'm tired of this.
I
Just
know.
quit going.
I know.
It'll work itself out. Are you in our friend's office still
I
in Hoover?
am. I am
Okay.
in Hoover again
How is he
today.
doing?
He's doing well. He's doing well. I have to tell him you said hello.
Tell him we said hello.
I'll do that.
Okay. So what's going on in your world, Barbara?
Well, Tom, I'm getting ready to go on another vacation. I'm actually headed to Vegas this time. So looking forward to that trip. But my prayers are with the people in the Northeast. I understand that they're experiencing a lot of rain in New York and New Jersey, and there's expecting even more, I think, in this coming week or so. So there's a lot of flooding in that area. I ask our viewers to please remember those in that area. And if they have relatives and friends there, to please check on them. They're going through a difficult time right now.
Okay. Well, we will certainly do that. You mentioned Vegas. And,
Yes.
let me just make an announcement here quickly. We just got an email from Emily Hedrick, who normally runs the show here on TWT, but today the show is being run by Sean Jones, another Best Girl employee. And so thank you, Emily, and thank you, Sean, and we will continue. Barbara, you mentioned going to Vegas, and I just heard yesterday that Rod Stewart is doing some stuff in Vegas, and he's actually going back. But I'll have to one day tell you guys my Rod Stewart story.
We would love to hear that.
And I met Rod Stewart one night outside.
You have such an interesting lifetime.
hotel.
I think you should actually be one of our G-list guests one week. You have a lot of stories
I
to
met
tell.
Rod Stewart, but I don't think he would remember because I practically scared the SHIT out of him. But
well, in that case, he might just remember.
Let's get Michael Walker on here and see what's going on with him. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Barbara. Hope you guys are
morning.
doing well.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine, Tom. Doing great.
Good deal. Good deal.
Let me start off by talking about cannabis. And this part is workers' comp insurance. And what's going on now is that cannabis may be used to treat injured workers, and it's appeared to be closer to acceptance. Recent litigation and proposed legislation in some eastern states have opened up the door for more widespread use of cannabis to treat injured workers, experts say. There have been a lot of cases heard in the courts of New York, Massachusetts, Maine, New Jersey, and New Hampshire that have helped to progress cannabis as a medical treatment in the eyes of law and insurance. Cannabis is still federally regulated, and it's a Schedule I substance, which is saying it has no medical value. But state courts have been pushing it the other way and saying they can be reimbursed for medical treatment for workers' compensation areas. So stay on the lookout for that. We may have more and more of this coming. And what this does, it legitimizes cannabis as a medicine because they are saying it needs to go through the same steps as Oxycontin and spinal surgery and other progressive treatments. So we may have a different outlook soon.
Is cannabis, are we talking about marijuana?
Yes, that's the politically correct term, or the medical term they use is cannabis.
Well, don't confuse it because everybody I know knows about it already. So you go confuse them. They think they're taking the wrong thing.
Okay. Well,
what else you guys got? We're having too much fun this morning.
I tell you. Well, there are a couple other things, and this one will be short. The federal government has pledged $100 million to address healthcare worker shortages in underserved markets. They are having more people that are leaving due to the pandemic, mental health, and what have you. And HHS is now committing $100 million through the American Rescue Plan to help solve some of the problems of healthcare workers and their mental stress levels, and trying to get more people back on the job and show them that they are appreciated for all the work they did during the pandemic. So I think that's a good thing as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
One other thing and this will be a little bit controversial, I don't back away from controversy, is that there are a couple things that's caught my attention. One is our new head coach, Brian Harsin at Auburn. He contracted COVID-19 back in August, I believe, and there were some questions at that particular time whether or not he was vaccinated. He never answered the question. Well, Monday during a press conference, he was asked again, and he dodged and ducked, and he keeps saying that he doesn't believe in discussing his personal medical decisions or what have you. However, the university has made a mandate that all employees, because Auburn is a public institution, that all state employees must be fully vaccinated by December the 8th. And they asked him if he wasn't, when, and he still refused to answer the question. So the next thing is he going to be terminated by December the 8th if he doesn't get vaccinated or what have you? And, the article had to draw a comparison to that school up north. And they talked about the head coach there, Nick Saban, has done a PSA encouraging everybody to be vaccinated. So once again, Auburn's following. Well, I won't say following, we're bringing up the rear in innovation. And that's disappointing because you being the head football coach at a major university at Auburn, you need to take up a leadership position on that. And if you're not, that's fine. And if you have personal reasons, that's fine. Just explain it, and be done with it. The other issue, and we can talk about this, is Derek Carr, the quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. I almost said Los Angeles Raiders. They're the Las Vegas Raiders.
Oakland,
yeah.
Vegas.
Maybe
they'll come to Birmingham at some point. Who knows?
And be the Magic City Raiders.
Yeah.
Well, Derek Carr has come out in support of John Gruden. Thom, you asked Barbara and myself, I think a couple of weeks ago, if we thought Gruden would get another opportunity. And Barbara and I both said, we think he would. We think he certainly will get another opportunity. Derek Carr was interviewed on one of the NFL shows, and he said that he hoped everybody would just forgive John Gruden. And it doesn't make sense to hold grudges. He had said before that he loved the man and we should forgive him. I didn't see Derek Carr anywhere in support of Colin Kaepernick, his colleague, when Colin was taking a stance for Black Lives Matter and police brutality. Colin Kaepernick is speaking out for the safety of disenfranchised African-American people at the hands of police, but he was ostracized, alienated, kicked out of the league. He had to sue just to be compensated. Where was Derek Carr in that? He didn't speak up for that, but yet and still he wants to speak up for Gruden, by the way, who made reference to Colin Kaepernick in some of his emails. So, and yes, he did. Yes, he certainly did. Well, they didn't really release it, but he called him, an exopith, however you say it, he cursed him and talked about he needs to be kicked out of the league and what have you for taking their stands. And so I think Derek Carr was still with the Raiders at that point. He didn't say a word about his fellow quarterback and colleague in the NFL in support of Colin Kaepernick. So I find it a little bit ironic that he wants people to forgive John Gruden on one hand, but when Colin was speaking up for police brutality, he was quiet. There were crickets, and it's the same thing. People talk about Ben Roethlisberger. Ben is forbidden to come back to Georgia because of raping that girl down in middle Georgia in the women's restroom. But on the other hand, nobody wanted Michael Vick to come back, even though Michael Vick went and paid and served his time. And when he came back to Philadelphia, nobody wanted him. They didn't want to forgive him, but they let Roethlisberger issue go away. To me, that was far more egregious than what happened with Vick.
I agree. We know that there's some double standards that exist, Michael. I don't think there's any question about that.
Quite a bit today. Let's go back to Arson for a minute. So, why do you think he doesn't want to get the shot? Or he? I mean, I don't know.
And he's never said he didn't get the shot.
Okay.
I don't think it. Michael, am I hearing that correctly?
He never said that he didn't.
Clarify.
He never said that he didn't get it, or he wouldn't get it, or that he has received the shot, or that he would get the shot.
He won't answer the question at all. He dodges it.
Talk about it.
Right. He keeps saying it's a personal matter, and that's not anything that you should have to discuss in public. So and they've reminded him that he's now a public figure. He's no longer in wherever he came from. He's in Alabama, and coaching football is a different situation in Alabama. You are a public figure, and your life becomes public information. So whether that's right or wrong, it's true.
It comes with the territory.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he can. Maybe he's being advised by what's the basketball player's name?
Kyrie Irving.
Yeah,
Kyrie.
maybe him and Kyrie are.
Well, did Kyrie did he not get vaccinated? I think he still hasn't.
That's why he's suspended. He can't.
Well,
play.
I thought he had made his mind up that he was going to get vaccinated. I thought I heard that within the last 24 hours, but I may be wrong. That may not be true.
I guess losing $100 and something thousand per game may change your mind.
Right.
Probably would change mine. Go ahead.
Well, Thom and Barbara, I want to ask you this. You guys, we talked about NIL, name, image, and likeness, and now players can be paid for their name, image, and likeness. We have a situation at Auburn where our senior defensive end, TD Moultrie, he has not played the last 4 games, and they said it was because of compliance issues. Everybody thought it was due to academics, but it's not. Turns out he was borrowing a car from a booster. A booster loaned him a truck to drive, and that caused him to be non-compliant, and that's why he has not been playing. And he's a senior and was having a great year, and the news came down before the LSU game. So what gives?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Thom. No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say those rules have always been confusing, and I could see, especially under the old rules, where that would have been an issue. Maybe with the new image and likeness thing, and they're paying guys, it seems like it would be less of an issue. I mean, because if you can compensate guys, can't you just give them a truck?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Why is that even an issue now? I understand it was because he didn't report it. It wasn't reported, which again should not matter. If you can be given something and report it, why does it matter whether you report it or not?
I think that whole thing is a mess, and it's going to take a few years to straighten it out. Yes. But hopefully, in the meantime, they don't ruin guys' careers with following rules. Let me mention one other thing to you guys. I got a chance yesterday to go to the Equal Justice Initiative, the new museum in Montgomery, Alabama. and it is absolutely amazing. It will. Some of the issues we've talked about, and Brian Stevenson spoke, of course, who is the creator and the guy behind all this, and he talked about Germany, and he talked about in Germany that there are little monuments or plaques outside the homes of former Jewish people who were misused, who were abused, who were killed, who were in the Holocaust. But there are monuments on all their houses. So as you walk through this area, and then he said, and you won't find a monument anywhere of Hitler. And that's sort of a dig back at this monuments of all these slaveholders that we find on our campuses throughout the United States. And I think one of the things that place, I mean, I encourage everybody to go to this place. It's just phenomenal. It will educate you on the truth of our history, which has been muddled with, some people don't want to talk about truth because they consider it, the truth is the truth, and it's hard to sort of, I don't know, say that it's not, Yeah. So it's a fantastic. It's very well worth the time. You got it.
I'm really looking forward to going to the new location, and I understand it's totally been expanded. I had an opportunity to visit the old location, and it was phenomenal. So I can only imagine what it's like now. So I did look forward to visiting that site.
Slaves and prisoners built a great deal of America. Free labor,
yes,
whether they were enslaved or whether they were in prison, incarcerated, which is pretty much the same thing.
Thom, let me ask you a question. You said something when you were discussing it earlier that slavery started in New York and Boston. Is that?
Yeah, the first slaves were brought into Boston, and slaves pretty much rebuilt New York City, and of course built most of our institutions in the South. It's incredibly educational, and he mentioned that they had from the time they opened until the pandemic hit, they'd had 450,000 visitors from all over the world. Matter of fact, the city of Montgomery is struggling with there are not enough hotels in the area.
Right.
There are not enough restaurants downtown. Right. You know how a few years ago businesses abandoned downtown,
right,
and moved everything out. Well, now there are not enough restaurants around to serve all the people who are coming from around the world. They're coming from around the world, and that shows you interest.
I was actually in Montgomery last week, Thom, on Tuesday and Thursday nights. Visited restaurants downtown, and there were lines on Tuesday and Thursday night to get into restaurants on both those nights. It was incredible. And I was totally surprised because a couple of years ago, again, went to Montgomery at night and you can find anybody downtown.
Montgomery, I used to always say all you needed was some tumbleweeds blowing down the street in downtown Montgomery.
Yes, exactly.
But it's coming along, and the new mayor is doing a great job, and the citizens. And then yesterday, there were people from all walks of life. It was a private viewing, and there were people from all walks of life. It was I was impressed, and I've been working on a project. A museum project that I told you guys about, and so we went to research and came away just blown away. So, all right. Anything else before we move on?
What are the hours of operation at the
Michael, it's a good question. I don't know, but you can call down there and just find out. And because I'm actually going to go back and take my wife. And I'm trying to see. I did get some cards of some people down there, but I don't seem to have that one. So I don't know, but I imagine they're pretty reasonable times. So. Okay. Well, let's move on. Let's go to the G list and see what's happening with the G list, where everybody is a star. Mainstream. The G list is brought to you by Mainstream Financial Group. Let's hear from Mainstream Financial Group.
Mainstream Financial Group provides financial services for both individuals and businesses. Mainstream's mission is to understand the unique needs of every client and work closely with you, assembling a team to develop and manage your resources to help you accomplish your defined financial goals. Mainstream's financial professionals will provide you with a complimentary, no-obligation financial review. Now, these professionals can then offer you custom advice to mend together the pieces of your financial life and come up with a plan that is truly comprehensive. Mainstream Financial assists retirees and those close to retirement in planning for a secure retirement so not to run out of money during your lifetime. You can take advantage of opportunities with tailored advice and the resources to act on it. Mainstream Financial Group, www.mainstreamfg.com, 205-324-0589.
Mainstream Financial Group. Don't let your money run out before you do. Larry Thornton on the show last week. Larry is an entrepreneur and artist, and Larry said that there's generational wisdom in those words. Don't let your money run out before you do. So let's get to our G list for today. Remember, Hollywood has the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Tom, we have the G list where everybody is a star. Today's G list guest is Crystal Harrell, CEO and founder of Crystal Clear Communication. Harrell became a certified academic success coach in 2019. She has helped dozens of students navigate their way through higher education from all backgrounds. She authored her first book, which means there may be more coming, Crystal Clear, A Journey of Self-Discovery from Public Housing to the Ivy League. It was released in March of 2021. I'm looking forward to having her. So, Crystal, how are you?
How are you doing, Mr. Gossip?
I'm doing fine. It's so good to see you. It's been a while. So,
yes.
So where have you been?
I was living in Bali earlier this year, but after Auburn, I went to Washington, D.C. to get my Master of Public Health and Epidemiology. From there, I came to New Haven to start my PhD program in public health and moved to Bali for half a year to study abroad and also just immerse myself in a different culture and experience a life that was different than the one I was experiencing here in the States. And now I'm back in New Haven finishing my last semester of classes before I start my dissertation. And then after that, who knows?
I want to ask you about something I read in your book, Crystal Clear. I thought that was a great title.
Thank you. My mom gave it to me.
Did she?
Yes.
It's a great book. You guys should pick it up. Crystal Clear, A Journey of Self-Discovery. And you talked about, I guess, coming out of high school, and you ended up with $670,000 in scholarships. How in the world did you do that?
So that's an estimate, and I didn't count the funding that I'm getting now. So I did that because when I was growing up, like the title states, I grew up in public housing apartments. So I knew that, after my dad passed away when I was 11, I just knew that there was going to be, there wasn't going to be a way I could attend higher education or get, a degree unless I had a way to pay for it. And by the time I was a sophomore, I was a freshman in high school. And I remember there was a cheerleader on the team, and she said that she received this 10-year scholarship to any school she wanted to go to. She was, telling me about it. And I just asked, how did you do it? And so she laid out everything for me. She told me that, I needed to have, a lot of hours in community service. I needed to have, a strong academic standing. And from freshman year to the first day of my senior year, I knew I was going to get that scholarship. It was the Bill and Melinda Gates Millennium Scholarship. So I had prepped myself from ninth grade to senior year. And I applied for a lot of scholarships at once because I knew that it was competitive. The year I applied, there were about 25,000 applicants. And so I knew that I had to do everything I could. And so I just applied for a bunch of scholarships every day after school. Every time I was rejected from one, I applied for 2 more. So that's pretty much how it ended up that way. So I ended up with 5 academic scholarships to go to school.
And I met you. What year were you when I met you at Auburn University?
I was a sophomore. That's so crazy.
You were on the track team.
I was running track. You couldn't have told me back then that I wasn't going to be a track star. I wanted to be a professional runner so badly.
Well, things seem to have worked out though.
Yes.
So tell me about living in Valley, and did you know anybody there?
I didn't. Honestly, Mr. Gossam, it was just one of those things where I saw myself, I was in the States and I was in my apartment and just struggling because everything was online. I was adjusting to this new life, this new norm. And it was really, really difficult. I was dealing with some really, really tough battles. And I ended up joining a coaching community for virtual coaches. That's why I started my business, because I saw Les Brown on the flyer and I was just like, if Les Brown is going to be in this event, I just want to be there to see him do his signature sign out live. So I joined that community, ended up meeting a bunch of life coaches, and one of them wanted to schedule a meeting with me, a free consultation. So I was like, okay, I can do that. And during this first meeting, this one-on-one meeting, he had me do a guided meditation, a visualization of where I saw myself living. And I saw a jungle. I saw a bamboo type of house thing. And I was just like, where is that? And so when I came out of the meditation, I was just like, I don't know any jungle, so I'll just Google it. And so I Googled bamboo house in a jungle or something. And Bali, Indonesia popped up. And I was just like, where the heck is this? And so the more I researched it, the more I saw myself living there. I started speaking to digital nomads who were living there. And yeah, one thing led to another. I sold everything in my apartment and I left.
Wow. Okay. And are you planning on going back at some point?
Absolutely. As soon as I get the green light, as soon as my last class is over, I'm leaving.
Okay. All right. Well, let me get Michael and Barbara on here because I know they want to talk to you as well. And then I'll come back and ask you a couple more questions. So can we get Michael and Barbara up here, please? Barbara, you got some questions for Crystal?
I do have some questions for Crystal, but first of all, I want to say, Crystal, your book is phenomenal, and you are a phenomenal young lady. I am so, so impressed with you. I couldn't put your book down. I received it in the mail and picked it up one day and thought I'll just read a chapter and stop. Well, I read the book in its entirety. I mean, I sat still, which is hard for me to do, to sit still and just read a book, nonstop. And I've gone back and I picked it up 1,000 times. I've highlighted it. I've got, notes everywhere. And I would highly recommend this book to anyone, especially young people who are preparing to go off to college or thinking, what's the next step for me? But one of the first questions I want to ask is, you talked about some of the adversity you faced in life. And in high school, you were trying to decide, you wanted to go to Auburn University. You knew that. You'd apply for various scholarships. You didn't have answers for that. And this high school guidance counselor tried to discourage you from attending Auburn. Talk about that experience and how that affected you. How did that fuel you in life?
Oh, wow. First, thank you so much for reading my book and just sitting down and highlighting it. It's so strange to me to see people holding it because I just thought about it and now it's like an actual thing. But that occurrence, that event that happened when I was in high school, I really don't believe that anyone is intentionally malicious. I believe that we are all operating from our own perception. We are all operating out of our space of consciousness at the time. And so for her, someone who came from a low income background, who grew up in public housing, whose mom was a single mother of 10 children, to her getting into a school like Auburn, with, you know, someone with low ACT scores, like that wasn't anything that she could conceive. And so she was just sharing her own perception with me. And what I took out of that situation was that lesson. And it honestly made me want to try harder. So it wasn't, I actually thank God for that occurrence, because without it, I don't think I would have tried so hard to get into Auburn, to apply for so many scholarships, because she was right in her own thinking. But for me, I just wanted someone to see my vision, but everyone won't see your vision. And that's why it's your vision. And eventually they will see it if you continue to walk in your truth.
Yeah, that's great. Right. Thank you. And one other question I had, I have plenty, but the next thing is, you know, you've done so much as an author, or, you know, career coach and all of that. But when you moved, I think, to Boston, you got involved with the tango club and learned how to tango, which
yes.
you have been involved in the dance. You even considered becoming a professional dancer. Talk about that experience.
Wow, you really did read the whole book.
Oh, yes, I did.
Well, I moved to Washington, D.C. to get my master's of public health and epidemiology. So it was my first time out of my home state. I was moving away from Auburn. I packed up my car, whatever I could fit in my car, I brought with me. Everything else I sold or, you know, gave or donated. And so I moved to DC and I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I needed a community. And so I had always danced. I danced at Auburn. I was dancing ballet and I danced in my church. So it was just something that I felt naturally drawn to. And I found that GW had a tango club. And so I joined it. And then right away, it was the hardest dance I think I've ever tried. But I couldn't stop. It was just like, I have to master this dance. And so my professional, she was a professional teacher, like in Europe and everything. And so she was my teacher as well. And she would always tell me, like, you have really good technique. She was like, if you keep at this for another couple of years, you could be a professional. And like everyone was telling me that. So I knew it was just like, okay. And I practiced so hard, like I knew it was possible. But I decided to stay in school because I knew that I could always dance. I could always, you know, return to this dream. But this dream of going to school was like once in a lifetime.
Right. Wow. Thank you.
Michael.
Good morning, Crystal.
Good morning, Michael.
And let me say congratulations to you on your accomplishment. You are certainly an inspiration to African-American kids everywhere, not only in the state of Alabama. So I really applaud you for what you've done. My first question is, to accomplish what you have accomplished, it takes a certain amount of mental toughness and intestinal fortitude. When did you realize you had what it took in order to accomplish your dreams? When did it strike you? When did that moment come?
I think it comes over time. So it comes from you looking back over your life and seeing that you really overcame everything that was stacked against you. If you are alive and well, and you look back over everything that was stacked against you, everything that was meant to make you fail, and you realize like, hey, like my biggest fears actually didn't come true. What actually happened was something greater. And so you develop a sense of confidence. And it's the self-image that, you know, Maxwell Maltz talks about in his book, Psycho-Cybernetics. It's the self-image that you develop of confidence and the self-image that you develop of someone who's going to overcome. And I think that happens over time. It comes through patience. It comes through faith. Among all things, but it also comes through people also seeing greater than what you did. Like Mr. Gossam said, when I came to him as a sophomore, I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing as a business owner, as a graduate student. Imposter syndrome in some of my classes are real, but I have faith that I'm going to overcome these barriers because I look back over everything that was meant to make me fail, and I see that I overcame. And so that was something that really helped me get, you know, achieve the next thing. And before that was the trauma response. That was me trying to prove my worth. Because when my father passed away from cancer, I suffered from abandonment issues. And I dealt with a lot of things that I didn't know what was related to that childhood trauma. And so me trying to be an overachiever was me trying to say, hey, look at me. I'm good enough. You can love me. Like I'm impressive. But when I turned around, and this happened when I was 23, when I first started to get counseling and I first started my spiritual journey, when God turned me around, it was like I didn't have to achieve anything, that I was enough just as I am. And so it was just now everything that I do, everything that I achieve is out of creativity, it's out of service.
Okay.
Let me just for a second. Hey, Crystal, those microphones are really, really sensitive. So moving, talking, you're bumping your mic, okay, and it makes a little popping noise. So if you just try not to bump it. It'll be okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay.
You threw me off. Just calm down.
I'm nervous. My armpits are sweating. I'm just like,
you're doing great. You're
doing fine. You're doing fine.
Great. Okay, and you are. I'm so proud of you. And I will interrupt Michael here, but I'll talk a little bit as we go. But go ahead, Michael.
Crystal, you talked about your master. It was public administration and epidemiology. Was that it correctly? What is it?
It was a master in public health, and my concentration is epidemiology. So everything that you're seeing now, that's what I was studying when the pandemic hit. And,
okay. Yeah. Well, that was leading into my next question. I just wanted to verify that. Mm-hmm. Give us your position based on what you have studied on the pandemic, and if you have any thoughts on its origination and what have you. Just give us your perspective of what's going on, including the origination and people taking vaccines or not. I'd like to hear from somebody that studied it.
How much time do we have, Michael?
Take all the time you want, because you're educating us.
Okay. Yes. So there's a lot of things in that question. So I'll try to give you the very sweet, short and sweet answer to that. First, when the pandemic first started, I actually stopped watching the news, because what I realized is that the data was being manipulated. So when you study data, it takes a very long time to get certain data rates, right? But what they were giving you in the news was data trends. Data rates and data trends are two different things. I know this because I missed that question on an exam one time, and I had to go to my professor to get clarification. So I realized that the general public didn't know the difference, and that the media was using these data trends to push a certain narrative, and I just didn't agree with it. And so it was very hard for me to watch. And at the time, no one knew what was going on. And so if these leaders actually stood up and say, look, we have no idea what's going on. We're going to, do this together. We're going to learn as we go. But they didn't. They were giving hard facts based on data. And the thing is, the CDC, if you look at it from a historical measure, the CDC has never really done a great job at reporting accurate data. It's just the reality of it. And so when they were saying like, oh, this is how many people died, it's very difficult for you to say that, because there's a thing as comorbidity, which is people who actually go into the hospital for one thing, but they end up dying from another thing. So there's so many things you have to take into account, and that's why it takes years to get mortality data. And so I had a hard time dealing with that. And then when you look at it, also when you look at the deadliest pandemic in history, which was in 1918, the same things that happened then are happening now. And it's because we don't look at our past, and we don't actually learn that you have to follow the money. And everyone says that until it's actually time for you to follow the money, and you need to look at what Big Pharma has always been doing and what it's doing now. And it has saved a lot of lives. But in the sense of, like you mentioned with the head football coach, and I was just like, I don't think it's any leader's position to give medical advice, especially if they don't have a background, any type of medical background, any type of public health background. Like, it's very difficult for you to say what I should do with my body. And I think that's why the South, sometimes we kind of contradict ourselves, because we say pro-choice, we say my body, my choice. Sometimes, right. But when it comes to this, it's like, no, like, you do exactly what you're told. And we're not giving people the ability to make decisions for themselves. And we're not taking into account that natural immunity is actually stronger than what we're seeing. And there's some studies going back and forth between the two, but the reality is we just don't know. And that's what leaders should be saying. Is we don't know. We don't have enough data. And so we need to make the best informed decisions for everyone, and decisions that's not based on greed and based on, filling up the pockets.
Yeah. I think this is maybe a little bit different. They're just asking him if he's taken it, and he won't answer it.
Right.
And true enough, you can have privacy, but when you're in a certain position, a public position, you become a public person. And,
this is true.
That changes the rules, so to speak. And I think as far as the media, given what answers they gave, shit, they don't know either. Right. I mean, they don't know.
But they won't admit that. They won't admit it.
They're like me and you. Somebody gave me the script today, and so I'm just reading what's on this script. And I've been in the media, and so I don't think that I'm sure that maybe Dr. So-and-so and Dr. So-and-so are some experts, but people who are just sitting there reading this thing like me, they don't know.
Exactly. And that's why I just would appreciate if people were just being more truthful about the matter. It's just admitting that we have a lot more research to do. For people to say that this is safe, when you look at reproductive health, for example, the Women's Health Initiative was a study that was started, I think back in 2014. The study is still going on in University of Washington in Seattle because hormone replacement therapy was once pushed to women who were premenopausal and also postmenopausal. And it was, telling them that this was going to help them basically be healthier after this age frame. But after years of studying this, what they found was that these women who were taking these hormones were actually higher at getting breast cancer. They had a higher risk of getting breast cancer. But we wouldn't have known that if we didn't have the time and we didn't do the research. And so for them to say that any drug that they're pushing is safe, especially when it comes to reproductive health, which is always last on the list, if you look at it from a historical matter, that's why I said, we have to read, we have to do our research. Reproductive health is never a priority. Now, when they say, these women are basically saying that they have abnormal menstruations after taking the vaccine, now that's something that's being studied. But in the beginning, that was nothing on the agenda to be studied. So that's why I believe that we really have to do our own research, and we can't take everything at face value. And there is no one size fit all when it comes to health and healthcare, because if that was the case, we would have adequate healthcare in the States, but we don't.
Okay. I think adequate healthcare is tied back to that comment you made earlier about money in the pockets. Right. Let me ask you. So you are a second lieutenant in the Army?
Yes, sir.
Currently?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that.
I'm a first lieutenant right now. So I was
first
promoted.
Lieutenant.
Yes,
oh, wonderful. So are you actively in the Army?
So I drill. So I do the 1 weekend out of the month and then 2 weeks out of the summer. And my contract started in 2017 when I graduated from Auburn's ROTC program. But I'm still learning, how to navigate through the military. What it's teaching me is just personnel management. And I believe that these skills are going to help me when it comes to running my own business, because I'm pretty sure I'll have to work with employees. I have to know, how to make sure everything is just organized when it comes to my personnel. And so I appreciate the skills that I'm learning now, but as far as long term, I don't really know, because I believe that there's so many things that I see that I have a global type of mindset. And when you're in the military, there's just a little bit more hoops that you have to jump through in order to get that type of impact, in order to make those types of moves. And so I want to be able to have the freedom to go and come as I please.
Oh, okay. Barbara, you got anything else?
I do. We were talking earlier, Crystal, about this being your first book, but did I not read somewhere that you also authored a children's book?
I did. This last weekend.
Oh, okay. It's new. Okay. Tell us about this book, the new book.
So I basically just took my nonfiction book that you're holding and I created a children's book out of that. So the author community that I'm in, called Self-Publishing School, they teach authors how to do that, how to take your nonfiction book and turn it into several children's books. And so the first one I thought about was creating a children's book based on the legacy of my father. So in my book, my first book, I talk about how he was my first educator, how he poured into me and really helped me see that education was the key. And he would always tell me that education was something no one could take away from me. And my dad was very educated, but he never received a degree. And so I believe that was something that he really wanted for his children, was to go to school and do well, and to just have it. And we all know that a degree doesn't make you smarter.
Right.
It's just an accolade. It's just getting the attention, and really just giving you the validity that you need to say, look, like I was persistent. I know what I'm talking about. Like, this is something that I'm very passionate about. So I took that story or that instance from my childhood and created a children's book. And I just wanted to show fathers of the role that they have when it comes to building happy and healthy and confident adults.
Yes. Wow. And what's the name of the book?
It's called A Girl and Her Dad.
Girl and Her Dad.
Cool.
And how can they get that book? Is it available now?
Yes, it's on Amazon, and I'm working to get it into bookstores as well.
Great. Wow. That's exciting.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. If there's a company called Ingram Sparks
Yes.
you use, they'll get it in bookstores for you.
Yeah. So with my first book, it was kind of harder because I published on KDP first. And so the transfer process is taking longer. But what I did was for my children's book, I published through KDP for the paperback and ebook. But for the hardcover, I'm going through Ingram Spark. And so I'm just waiting for their approval now. And once they do approve it, or if they do approve it, then I'll just go through them to get my hardcover children's books into the bookstores.
That's great.
Do you mentioned public housing? So do you go, quote, home and visit? Is that something that you still maintain that communication?
So I actually went back home when I came back from Bali this year, and I did a book signing at my old high school. So that was exciting because my principal was so encouraging. And I remember like getting one of the questions, one of the seniors asked me, he said that, did you ever wonder, like, because you're from such a small town, did you ever think that that was going to hinder you from achieving your goals? And I told him that success was compounding. So all you have to do is see the next level. And then once you're there, you'll see more opportunities to succeed. So it doesn't matter where you come from. There have been plenty of people who made it from small towns, smaller than what Ozark is, and they've made it to great success. Not just monetary success, because to me, knowing who you are and understanding that you are capable of achieving your goals, that's success to me. So I do go back and I try to encourage the high school seniors and stuff like that. But recently, not so much.
Okay. So what's the ultimate? Where do you want to end up? Where is is there an end point?
I don't know. I don't think there's ever going to be an end point, because I feel like people, when you stop setting goals, when you stop trying to serve, when you stop trying to improve yourself, that's when you actually die. That's spiritual death to me. So I feel like in order for me to keep going, I have to keep growing. I have to keep figuring out more ways that I can use my gifts to serve. And even though like it looks like on the outside that I've achieved so many things and people always say that, but what's in my heart and what I know is capable, what I'm capable of is so much more. Like the level of service that I would like to do, that I would like to give back, it's so much greater. Like I would like to start a scholarship foundation like Bill Gates did. It probably won't be 10 years because, you know, Bill Gates is big money, but I would like to do like the 4-year scholarship for students from my high school, you know, send 1 or 2 students from my from their senior year in my high school to university for 4 years. That would be really nice. And honestly, just investing in my business. Like I've started my company last November, so it hasn't been a full year yet. And I would really like to pour in it, like, you know, 100% once I'm done with class.
Give us the quick 1, 2, 3 of what your business does.
Yeah, so I basically provide services and informational like tutorials on YouTube as well for students. I also do one-on-one coaching, but when the semester starts, I have to have a waiting list because I can't really coach one-on-one. So a lot of the things that I do is help students first, how to be successful. So I point them in the right direction. I give them advice on basically just coach them how to be a successful student from all the mentors that I had, like, you know, Dr. Gassim, the mentors that I had, like my faculty members back in Auburn. And I just tell them everything that I know. And I also help them apply for competitive graduate school programs. So my last client, I helped her apply for master's in public health programs, and I look over applications. I make sure that, you know, they have everything that they need to be a competitive applicant, because I researched this. I went to the admissions committees and I was calling them at Yale, Harvard, Hopkins, UCLA. I was calling all these schools, asking them, how can I be a more competitive applicant? And so I just use that, and I take that information so they don't have to, and I tell it to them.
I just want to, there's several comments on here, and you had mentioned you were nervous. And I
Yes.
just want to tell you what some of the people are saying about you this morning. Let's see. You are an inspiration. It's an excellent program. She is awesome. Joyce says good morning.
Good morning.
And so yeah, they obviously you're doing a great job.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Goss.
Any final comments from you, Crystal?
Oh, no, I was just going to say thank you so much for having me, because when I look back and think about the first time that we actually had a conversation, there's no way I could have imagined the person that you're looking at right now.
Well, it's so April Couture, your sister.
Oh,
so she is, you are truly inspiring.
Yes.
I love you, April. And I called you yesterday, by the way.
I remember our conversation, and I just remember that there were some things, and I don't remember what the particulars were, but you were a little unsure as to how you were going to move forward, which we all are from time to time. And I think it's cool because one of the things that in my life, I never wanted to do one thing. And people always say, well, what are you doing now? Why are you doing that? You know, it's like, okay, because it's fun. It's an adventure. And you're having a wonderful adventure. And I'm so proud of you. And it's just great. It's just great. I remember us sitting in that room and talking and
Tom, like Larry Thornton told us last week, we're extra, and I think Krista's pretty extra too. So
yeah, she is definitely extra. So we're gonna move on and wrap things up. But Crystal, you've just been phenomenal. I am so proud of you. And,
Thank you.
Wonderful. So let's give Crystal a hand, please.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Excellent space. This is a great space. I feel very, very safe and supported.
Okay.
You are.
Well, thank you. All righty. Well, we're gonna move on towards our closing here. So thank you so much. Here. Okay. So I want to thank Crystal for that. That was just phenomenal. I am so proud of her, and she's absolutely right. When we met and we had our talk, like a lot of young people, she was looking for the way to go, and I can't say that I did a whole lot. My wife certainly did, and they're still friends, and I'm just proud. I'm very, very proud of her. So my closing comment today is to quote the dedication from Crystal's book, Crystal Clear. It's wonderful to watch someone grow and come into themselves as Crystal has. Hopefully she serves as an inspiration to young people who feel the odds are stacked against them. The dedication to Crystal's book reads, to dreamers everywhere, it is possible. Use your passion, your creativity, and whatever knowledge you possess to take action. Taking action is how dreams are made and progress is realized. That's the dedication from Crystal Clear. And that is how I see it for this Tuesday, October 26th in the year 2021. That's our show for today. I want to thank the audience. We appreciate you very, very much. Appreciate your comments. Thank Michael. Thank Barbara. Thank our G-List guest, our special G-List guest, Crystal Harrell. Upcoming G-List guests on TWT are Alvin Briggs, Byron Franklin, Kai Stephen, I may have said it incorrectly, I'm sorry, Kenneth Kelly. And as we get into the holidays, we'll have a special Thanksgiving show. And of course, at Christmas, we're going to have Santa Claus. So I want to thank our sponsors, Best Girl Inc. and Mainstream Financial Group. You know somebody who'd be a great guest on TWT, please refer them to us. I'm going to thank Sean Jones, who came in today in relief of Emily Hedrick. Thank you, Sean, for the job you've done. We appreciate it. Remember, everybody, enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.